Well, not only is he a fantastic sportscaster, but he is a brilliant writer. Ken Reid, and speaking of Reeds, I have Hockey Card Stories Part 2 in front of me, Ken. And this is just a fantastic book. And if anyone out there collected hockey cards as a kid like I did, this thing brings back so many great stories. It's one thing to collect hockey cards as a kid and to look at them and admire them and keep them. What inspired you to write stories about these cards?
Just curiosity, just the fact that, like you, I'm a storyteller, right? And I just wanted to know more. I wanted to know what the guys on the cards actually thought of their cards, because for guys like you and I don't know, basically every Canadian boy from 1970 to 1990 who collected hockey cards, girls too, we just had these things. And as you get older, you look back at them, right? So your youth becomes nostalgic after a while. So when I'd go back to my dad's place because I'd moved away from home, early 20s, I went out west, and I'd go back and I'd always look through my old cards. And as the years went by, they'd kind of, I'd pick up things that I never noticed as a 10-year-old. Like you and I were just looking through some cards. We noticed, oh my God, all the Minnesota North Stars, their uniforms are crayoned on. We probably didn't notice that when we were
No.
10, but you notice that when you get older. And so I love cards, always have loved cards. Still a collector, but then I thought, I wonder what the guys on the card think about them, because it's almost like if our high school yearbook pictures were distributed to everyone for the world to see, and 30 years down the road, everybody had my high school yearbook picture with my big Wheels from Degrassi glasses on. So I just called the guys up, and what's the deal with this card? Why do you have a perm? Why do you have a mustache? Why is your uniform crayoned on you? Why do they have the wrong guy on your card? And all the players in the first book and in the second book were very receptive, and they came up with some great stories.
But
The cards brought us everywhere else. You never knew where it was going to bring us.
Because if you're just talking about the card itself, that
Yeah.
could end in 20 seconds.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it morphed into something else. And what amazes me, and you've got a chapter in this book with some error cards.
Yeah.
And first thing is, as a kid, once in a while you might notice something. Oh, hang on a second, that's not so and so. But it amazes you that in this day and age of technology, that so many mistakes were made and were allowed to get out and sold as hockey cards. How could so many of these be out and be wrong?
Well, back then, I think it was a lot more innocent, right? So you'd get your picture taken maybe one game a year. There'd be a hockey card photographer there. So if he accidentally filed you under the wrong name, I make mistakes. I found one already in the book. I said Doug Grant had one more card. He had two more. Forgive me. So if you filed Joel Otto as Mo Lime, and that's the one I still can't get over, right-handed shot, huge guy, Mo Lime, left-handed shot, I guess it just goes through the process, and on the card Joel Otto ends up on Mo Lime's rookie, and Mo Lime ends up on Joel Otto's. There were some more understandable errors back in the day. Larry Hopkins was on Paul McLean's rookie, but they were both Winnipeg Jets who had feathered hair and mustaches in 1981. Now, granted that's half the league in 1981, feathered hair and mustaches. But yeah, it's funny how... like Steve Larmer and Steve Ludzik, they were mixed up on their rookie cards, just flipped. The backs of the cards are correct. The front, Ludzik's on Larmer's on Ludzik's. It's kind of Finkel as Einhorn from Ace Ventura. But it's funny. Some errors were corrected, others weren't. The guys that had the errors on their cards, nobody really cared. It wasn't a big deal. So like a lot of things in life, you just kind of laugh at it.
Errors are one thing. But when a photo of somebody is taken and turned into something really bizarre, like Rick Vive's rookie card, that's when you go, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
Because Rick Vive always had wonderful hair.
Yes.
In this rookie card, if you get a chance to see it, and if you're watching the video, we'll pop it up there. What happened to his hair?
Well, I actually gave Rick a copy of the book on Saturday. I ran into him, and he just laughed again because, so he's traded from Vancouver to Toronto, so they airbrushed a Leafs uniform on him, which is understandable. What we can't understand is they airbrushed his hair. And like you said, full flow. Rick still has the full flow. It's magnetic white now. Back in the day, it was black. But for some reason, they crayoned on his hair. So it's hilarious. Can you imagine Sidney Crosby today? His card comes out and they just brush his hair in. Like it was just, I don't know. It was really innocent. Obviously in 1981, cards weren't scrutinized probably the way they are now. So they figured they'd just color his hair on, which I think is absolutely hilarious. No one really knows why, because it's not like he was bald and asked for a wig, or I don't know why. It's weird.
When you look at the way cards are done now, and I've been at spring training with the Blue Jays, when the card companies come to spring training, They set up a station. Each player comes. They take a number of very high-quality pictures, and that becomes the hockey card or the baseball card.
Yeah.
You look back, up until maybe the mid-'70s, 90% of the hockey cards were posed pictures. We weren't talking action shots.
Yeah.
They were posed. So it seems like back then they put a little more care in. They had a photographer go and do, studio-looking pictures, although there were times where, they missed things, like the one we were looking at of Ken Hodge, of the Boston Bruins, wearing his pants. Like, not hockey pants. We're talking, like, dress pants.
Yeah, he had his slacks on for that one. A bunch of the Bruins had their slacks on that year, so Phil Esposito, he gave me a story for my first hockey cards book, and he said you just came in a room and they slapped a uniform on you and gave you gloves. So I assumed the guys were going out to lunch or it was after practice. But, yeah, the pose shots, they had a little art to them. But then in the mid-'70s, you started seeing action shots. Most of the card pictures were taken in either Washington or in St. Louis. St. Louis, they had the good lighting. Washington, I'm not sure why. Maybe that's where the photographer resided. But, I mean, you open a pack of Upper Deck now, and the photos on the cards are just magnificent.
Yeah.
It's just sharp. It's crisp. Of course, the arenas are all well-lit now. We have digital photography now, so you can comb through an infinite amount of samples. Back then, you're shooting on your Kodak film. The lighting isn't also great. There's a 73, 74 card of Dave Keon that is absolutely hilarious. And there's 10 guys in the card. It's a face-off, and somewhere in there it's Dave Keon. I always call it the Where's Waldo card. And I'm thinking,
is this Leafs or is this
Leafs?
Okay?
I'm thinking, could they not get a good picture of Dave Keon, one of the best players in the game? But it's this Where's Waldo version of Dave Keon.
Yeah, and it's the times too, because now photographers are everywhere. People are shooting pictures during games and shooting videos on their phones.
Yeah.
So there's better quality shots that you and I can get sitting in the stands than what a lot of these cards were done.
Absolutely.
And, but for me, see, I'm a guy that, as much as I enjoy the convenience of digital, I love analog. I have hundreds and hundreds of records. I love vinyl. So for me, when I look back at those cards from the early 70s and the posed shots, there's something special about that. Now, there were a few of the action shots that I loved. As you know, I was a Mike Palmateer freak.
Sure.
Now, his first 2 or 3 cards were just close-up posed shots of his face, and I wanted something of his mask. I had to find a Dennis Maruk card when he was playing for the Cleveland Barons, and there in the background is Mike Palmateer. It wasn't until he got to Washington that there was actually a really cool shot of him with his mask on, and even that wasn't his regular card. That was for most assists by a goalie that year.
That's an
card.
awesome card. He's kind of down on the ice, the butterfly.
Yes.
His mask was awesome when he played for the Caps.
It was.
And, to get an action shot of a goalie back in the day, it was almost kind of rare. Jerry Cheevers, I don't think he has his mask on in any of his cards, just his 79-80. It's resting on the top of his head. But I'm like you. I love the innocence of the old cards. Just that something that wasn't perfect made its way onto a card. And because life's not perfect. You can frame up a picture of a guy nowadays to look perfect, but that person isn't perfect. None of us are. And the game was so much more innocent then. It wasn't the $4 billion a year industry it is now, or whatever it is. It was just innocent. And the cards back then, when you look at them, they're innocent. There was only one card maker. There's all kinds of little subtle messages. There was no internet, so you didn't know everything about the guys. The only thing you knew about them was what was on the back of their hockey cards and their picture on the front. I mean, when I grew up, you didn't get to see the Colorado Rockies hockey team on television. All I knew about the Colorado Rockies was a card of Lanny McDonald or Wilf Paymont that I'd get in a pack, and that was it. So that's how I knew their colors. So it was more innocent then, and you could kind of solve mysteries by opening a pack of hockey cards. You could say, "Oh, that's what Doug Favell looks like."
And you got to see personality, and I think that's something that's missing from pro sports now is the personality we saw. I mean, you look at a hockey card of Doug Flett.
Yeah.
The Cowboy, or Bill Flett, the Cowboy.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. And I'm trying to think of who it was that used to wear the headband all the time.
Henry Buka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd see the headband, and you just knew
everyone looks the same now. Everybody has the same helmet now, the same gloves now.
And same with goalies. Even though they do a lot of really fancy artwork on their masks, because the masks themselves are all pretty much the same from a distance, they all look the same.
Yeah.
You have to get close up to go, okay, I see the intricate artwork. But back then, something as simple as Doug Favell slapping a big maple leaf
Yeah.
on his mask, or Mike Palmateer with his design, you knew it right away who these goalies were. Tony Esposito never had a stitch of paint on his mask.
Right.
But it was just the cutouts in it, the air holes, and then the little piece of
glasses almost at the
Yeah.
front. Yeah, because he had really bad vision, Tony Esposito. That's kind of an
So
ironic
that was
thing
an
for a goalie.
actual. That was a.
I'm pretty sure they might have been actual glasses.
That's so cool.
Tony talked to me in my first book, and like he was innovative with like the stuff he did with his equipment. But you're right, it's kind of funny. I mean, we live in this era where everyone has their social media image, and then they have their real personality. And you're right. Back then, players were kind of more free to do what they wanted to. It seemed with their masks. Now everyone seems to kind of look the same. With the helmets, too, it's tougher to tell who's who unless you know their skating style. But back then, I mean, okay, Ron Duguay had his haircut. Guy Lafleur had his haircut. Marc Messier wore the Winwell helmet. Peter Klima wore the Jofa helmet. Now, how many guys on a team wear the same helmet?
It's pretty standard.
I'm guessing 19 of the 20
Yeah.
guys have the same lid on. Back then, I mean...
Remember the Don Luce salad bowl? Of course, Lanny McDonald. And then there was Slava Duras, who played for the Leafs, who wore this humongous, looked like an astronaut helmet.
But Mark Napier in my book has an XL7 on, the helmet of the future.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that on. And I don't know. It was just, I don't know. It seemed to have a little more flavor then, a little more individuality, even though hockey's always been such a team sport. But nowadays, everyone's kind of got the same lid. And I used to, I mean, the Peter Klima helmet was awesome. The Gretzky Jofa was awesome. But now everyone kind of falls in line, it seems, with the same thing. I mean, when's the last time we saw a goalie? Was it Chris Osgood, the last goalie I can think of, with just a helmet and a face mask, not the goalie helmet now?
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen anymore.
I was so pissed when that became a thing.
Yeah.
Because I love goalie masks. And then all of a sudden they started wearing, and when Palmateer came back to the Maple Leafs, he started wearing the helmet and cage. And I remember that. No, why are you doing that?
Yeah. The helmet, man, to me, 70s goalies' helmets are pure artwork. A lot of the goalies in the book, they talk about the guy that used to design their mask. Forgive me, I know his last name's Harrison. I believe it was Greg Harrison.
Yes, it was, yes.
Designed all these masks. And it's just amazing.
And I mentioned Doug Favell, and Doug Favell was, in fact, the first goalie to do that. And you don't think about that, right? It's like, at some point, some goalies did it. Gilles Gratton was famous for having the mask that was never allowed to be worn in the NHL because it was like this tiger, this really scary
He had that, and in the Rangers, he had the lion or something like that. And it's funny, Doug Favell in the book corrects a common misconception about his mask,
the pumpkin
mask. So it was really cool to get that straight from Doug. This huge misconception in the hockey world about the pumpkin mask. So yeah, I mean, my favorite display at the Hockey Hall of Fame is just those goalie masks. I think it's fantastic.
When you look at the cards back in the day, to me too, there was the magic of buying the pack for 10 cents, opening up the pack, the smell of the gum. Did you eat the gum?
Absolutely.
See,
that chalky old gum.
Did you rub the chalk on your pants?
You rub the chalk on whatever.
See,
whatever you get.
My jeans would be full of white powder.
Gum chalk, yeah.
Yes, and it was sugar, Mom. It was not.
Yeah, it could get you in trouble if you traveled somewhere.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, there was a certain magic. And the thing is, you look at the people who buy cards today, do you find that they're buying them for a different reason than why we bought them?
It depends on the person. There's people out there that
because I never thought about when I collected cards, never even crossed my mind.
No,
this is going to be worth something.
Of course
one day.
not. Of course not. So there's people who do. There's people that invest. You can see them at shows. They'll come in with a briefcase, trying to look all cool. But I think 80% of people just collect them just to collect them because it's a connection to the game. For me, the cards are a connection to the game, connection to my childhood, like you said. You know what's great is you can buy an old box of O-Pee-Chee unopened from 1990 for $5, okay? The cards in it aren't worth anything. But when you open the pack and the smell...
The gum is in there?
The gum is still in there, and it still smells the same 28 years later.
Any idea when they stopped doing the gum?
The gum, I'd say 93-ish, around there. I'm guessing. Somebody out there will know. So... It hit the general public at around 1990 when everyone went, I'm going to the attic. I'm going to find my old cards. Oh, no, Mom threw them out. People are showing up with cards going, okay, this is worth $25,000. And you're kind of breaking their heart going.
There's a thumbtack hole in the middle of it.
Exactly. Not in this condition. You poked Mickey Mantle's eyes out and you drew a mustache on Gordie Howe. In your case, who'd you draw a mustache on? Reggie Houle.
Yeah.
So it's not worth that. And now what you have are guys our age going back to look at cards that they got in 1990, 91, 92, going, oh, look at all these old cards. And you have to tell them, look, those are from the boom era. They printed these things off by the billionth. They're not worth
Even the rookies?
Yeah, they're not worth anything.
Really?
Yeah, you might get $5 for a tired, gigantic box.
And that's when people really started caring for them, too,
Right.
right? Because back in our day,
Right.
there were no such things as those plastic
Right,
sleeves.
and that's the other problem. So if everybody gets, let's just pick a card from 1990. If everybody gets a Matt Sundin rookie, and the first thing they do is put it in a plastic case, then every Matt Sundin rookie is in really good shape. Back in the day when everybody got a Gretzky rookie, well, nobody put it in a plastic case. So maybe by some miracle, someone got a Gretzky rookie, threw it on their shelf, and nobody touched it again. So that's the one Gretzky that's in really good shape compared to all these other ones that's in bad shape. Hence the value, the scarcity.
What is a Gretzky card that's not in great shape? Like a rookie card.
Right. Like you could get a banged up rookie card for, I bought like a really banged up one for $40 a couple years ago. You could get a really banged up one for probably $150, $200.
I have a book of yours that is in pristine shape.
That's mint
I would
condition.
say this is, yes, definitely mint condition.
Yeah.
This is your second one.
Yes.
Is there a third one in the works?
Well, it depends how the second one goes. If it sells enough, sure,
So
I'll
I'm
do
lucky
another one.
I've got a copy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have a signature in it, though.
No, I'll probably
unfortunately.
sign it for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. But as you know, you've got a box right there with cards in it. There's countless stories.
Oh, that's what I'm
So
saying, right?
That's it. It's almost the possibilities are infinite.
Well, it's been great talking to you, Ken. Great catching up with you again. I look forward to finishing this book. And the cool thing is you don't have to read it in order.
You
right?
don't, no.
And that's how I've
You
been
don't.
doing it. I've been just going to the index and finding, oh, I want to
Absolutely.
read about that card, read about that card.
Absolutely.
And we'll have to get the first one as well. And for those of you watching and listening, make sure you get your copy of Hockey Card Stories 2 and Hockey Card Stories. Is it called 1 or is it just Hockey?
Just hockey card stories. You know
Yeah.
what's funny? I looked on Amazon and hockey card stories is starting to sell again now too. Not
Reid?
a clue.
Thank you so much, sir.